Great. Welcome, everybody. I'm so happy that you're here. I am Karen Flaherty, and this is the breakout session for generator. Going through and just kind of talking a little bit about what it is to be a generator. And now that we're called alchemists, what does that mean? How does that, kind of change our world a little bit? How can we become the people that we really want to be? So what I called it was generator hacks and flawed assumptions that trip us up on our path. Because there are, if you've been a generator for any number of years, you know that there are ways that we get tripped up and we basically get in our own way, right? So that I've come up with some different hacks because I've been doing human design for a while now, and I see these things over and over again, and they're kind of interesting. So this is my chart. I'm Karen Flaherty. I've written a book called Getting to Know You, and it came out in 2018. I've been a human design specialist since 2010. I found out about it in 2009 and then started soon after that. And I figure I'm uniquely qualified to do this because not only have I been living with myself for the last 11 years since I found out about human design, but I'm married to a generator also. And so he definitely teaches me lessons every single day and helps to do all of that. My background is in corporate America, and I've, more than 30 years or so in the corporate environment. So it's fun to know who comes together as groups in corporate. I always like seeing that because, as many of you probably know, you can put the charts together and then get a really interesting puzzle, right? And see who's there and who and what kinds of challenges you might have or how it might affect you. So the way I wanted to start today is really to say congratulations. Congratulations, you're a generator if you are a generator, and congratulations if you have a generator in your life. Because right now we're, as Karen's changing the words, we're becoming alchemists. And so what does that mean? Who are we? There's plenty to say about that because first of all, I'm happy to be here and be talking about this specifically to generators because I've never actually done that before. So this is a pretty cool thing to know that there's enough of us to be able to talk about being a generator, and we're in this unique kind of bubble. This change that Karen was talking about this morning, that we're the Mayan calendar has changed, ended, gone into a next cycle, however you want to think about it, and the generators get to play a new game. The game we always used to play was about being farmers and being very practical and taking on the roles of the servant and the factory worker and the farmers and basically anything else that needed to be done. We were the worker bees. And so now we get to choose, and now we get to figure out what we want to do. And my whole, kind of the way this all came together for me was through the law of attraction, which I found out about in literally the year 2000. And then in 2009, I found out about human design. And so in my practice, what I've been able to do is pull them all together. And what's interesting now, ladies, is that not only is it the law of attraction going on, but I think it's the law of instantaneous manifestation. I think we're here to really start manifesting exactly what we want, when we want it, and how we want it. And if we allow ourselves to do that by understanding ourselves, this is my whole philosophy. If we understand ourselves, then we can do that, appreciate who we are, be consistent in who we are, let go of the rest. We're never going to be the things we think we should be. That's gone. The things that we were in the past, it doesn't matter anymore. And now you get to be who you want to be. And so Karen even says, you'll know what you need to know when you need to know it as a generator. How simple can it be, right? We don't really have much to do. The to-do lists are really a lot shorter now. So if you hold the intention with passion and then trust in the experiment that we're all going through, we as generators can literally sit back and wait to respond when we trust. And it does sound passive, but it's really not. I'm doing a lot. I'm doing more than I ever have, but I also have the energy to do more than I ever have. That's the beauty of this, I think. That's why I'm, hopefully talking to you today, because I finally gotten to the point where I don't feel the stress that I used to feel. I don't feel the corporate America stress like I used to feel. I don't burn out anymore like I used to. And I have the energy to do what I want to do. There's yeah, some days I take a nap, but that doesn't mean that that I need to stop. It just means that I'll work till midnight that night, or I'll just keep going and going. And that's okay because I have the energy to do it. And at my age, I'm really happy to have the energy to do that. And that's what I tell my clients. It's really reassuring for them as well. So Cindy, do we have the results from the poll? So we have mostly generators. 86% of the people here are generators. 43% have only known about human design less than a year. That's surprising. A few more than 7 years, but it's pretty well divided. Most people are between over 50, but a bunch between 30 and 50. And in the past year, a number of you have changed things. So career, significant relationship, home location, and 29% changed all of the above. So you're in the right place. And does it feel like it's a breakout year for you? 86% said yes. So that's pretty cool. So thanks so much for filling out the poll. I appreciate that. And thanks for your comments. That's so sweet. Yeah, hugs to you guys too. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation, and now we'll get into some of the, actually what I first want to just talk to you about are some of the frustrations, because what happens is that, so here's some of the flawed assumptions. I'm gonna have to move all your beautiful little pictures here so I can see. So first of all, we think that because there's so many of us that we're less than. So, if you've been in human design any amount of time, you know that 37% of the population are generators. And that's a big proportion. We're actually even more than manifesting generators. And yes, we were here to be the people who did all the work. And that's why there were so many of us, right? But now we get to do a reset, really, right? We're doing a reset because there's a lot of us, yes, but that doesn't mean we're anything less than. I mean, I have to tell you that I have never talked to a generator that when they first got their chart who said, oh, goody, yay, I'm a generator. That just doesn't happen. I myself was not happy when I heard I was a generator, believe me. I didn't know what all the other pieces were, but generator didn't sound that great. And so we just assume that it's a kind of a less than thing. And so I'm here to tell you, no, this is a pep talk for generators. This is a pep talk to let you know how wonderful you are, how much you've got to offer, and how much we can do as generators. And really, I think it's our time. I really think it's our time to kind of bust out of our bubbles and start doing things. Sorry, and I just wanted to go through the flawed assumptions first, and then we'll get into the good stuff. But one of the other assumptions as a generator is that our throat, as a generator, your throat is never connected to your sacral or to any other motor for that matter. And so we think that our voice it matters, but it doesn't in a way. It doesn't matter when we're making a decision. When we're making a choice of any kind, if it's coming from your head or you're out of your mouth, you shouldn't be paying attention to it. And I only got this on a thing I was listening to Rod lately, where he said that, and he's like, it just doesn't make any sense. It's like a verbalized yes or no for a generator will not be affirmed by action. It doesn't make any sense. It's not gonna, the only thing we can respond to is the uh-huh or whatever it is you say from your sacral. That's where the action comes from. And then even if you do have a defined throat, you might think that you have a voice, but you really don't. I hate to tell you, I have an open throat. My husband has a defined throat. We still can't hear each other sometimes in the same room. And I wish we could sometimes because he ignores me and I ignore him. But it's really not. Take my word for it. It is not personal. It's just energy. Thank goodness you're here today because a generator with an audience is a happy camper. But otherwise, it's hard for us to be heard. If people don't want to hear us necessarily, or they're not expecting to hear us, even if it's a spouse or a significant other, they won't hear us. And so even if you have a defined throat, you might think you have a voice, but you really don't. And so, and then of course we all grow up thinking with the Nike, just do it, we're just do it people. We're really not. as generators. We're not the just do it people. And then half of us are running around with defined agendas anyway. And we grew up being trained to listen to our heads, right? Especially if you've had, you know, more education than the average bear, you're going to think that you should be using your head. It was funny to listen to Maggie Ostar the other day because she's, you know, very well educated. She's got a PhD and she's a generator. But so we think that we should be heard, and yet, you know, and we're using our heads, but we still can't. We think that we have to make goals and pursue them, and we don't really. I have a different way of doing that I want to tell you about. So there are a lot of generator frustrations. My favorite, of course, is Apple's lack of manuals. It's like, who thought of this? Who thought that we didn't need manuals? With so many people in the world at being generators, I'm really not sure how they've succeeded for so long, except that all of us know how to Google, and that's been my saving grace to operate any of my Apple products. We mistake the outward signs. We don't watch for them enough. We think that they should hit us over the head, like Oprah says, with a 2x4, and sometimes that doesn't happen. So we should be watching for the outward signs. We also don't keep our eyes open for opportunities, because the opportunities can really come from anywhere, right? From anyone. And so we should be looking for the opportunities. With the motors, we make the mistake of not using up all of our energy each and every day. You know, it's not like you can push and push and push and then collapse on the weekend. With motors, it's the opposite. If you've got a lot of motors, 2, 3, or 4 motors, I happen to have 1, but I still get, you know, I still have to use it up every single day. 2, 3, or 4 motors, I'm seeing a 4. 2, 3, or 4 motors, you got to use them up every single day, and it's almost like you don't get a day off, which kind of sucks. But if you use the motors up, then you'll feel better. You'll sleep better, and I'll get to sleep in a little bit. But sleep is really important for generators. And then there's the masks we wear. Any of the shoulds that we think we have to do, these masks basically squash our magnetism, because it's not our authentic selves. And you know, in human design, you really want to be your authentic self. And then, of course, if you have so many open centers that take in other people's stuff, I mean, some generators, I'll show you in a second, only have 2 centers defined. So, and that can be tough on them. So here's my recipe, basically, for being a generator. You want to make your decisions with your mind. This is making your decisions with your mind versus your gut. If you literally put your 2 fingers in front of you and make a decision with your mind, with your mind, with your mind, with your mind, you're going to go all the way to the right. And then if you make it with your gut, with your gut, with your gut, with your gut, you're going to go all the way to the left. And you can be in 2 very different places when you're making decisions from those different places. And then what happens usually, especially with generators, is that we say, okay, I'm going to use my mind today, and then I'm going to use my gut, and then I'm going to use my mind, and then I'm going to use my gut, and then I'm going to then back and forth and back and forth. And guess what? We're marching in place. We're not going anywhere, because we're using our gut and then using our mind. And we think that maybe our mind knows better. We think that we should be doing that, but it doesn't really work out. It's very different endpoints for both of those. So it's your choice. It's always your choice. You, as a generator strategy, and these are just suggestions, some will work for you, some won't work for you, but I just, you know, ask you to try them on. It's just different ways of looking at the generator strategy, right? It sounds so simple, just wait to respond. Well, guess what? For a lot of people, they don't get that. It doesn't make sense right away. And I understand, because I had to, you know, kind of ease into it myself. It didn't come naturally to me after using my head for so long. So this generator strategy is to wait to respond. And so, you know, early on in our culture, we thought that we had to make decisions with our head and then rationalize. So according to our strategies, really, it's much better to use your gut and then rationalize. So what I tell my clients is to use your gut, get the answer, and I'll tell you a few different ways for getting that answer, and then rationalize it, right? Then do your list of pros and cons, because whether you have to explain it to your significant other, or to your boss, or to your kids, or to anybody, your friends, relatives, whoever it is, if you have to explain it to them, you can come up with just as many reasons and rationalizations by using your gut as you can with the others. Now, sometimes they will seem a little crazy, but you'll still be able to, if you sit down and think about it, you'll be able to rationalize that and come up with reasons why that should work, because you know you, and you know why it should be working. So my recipe is, my quick recipe is to make a list, make lists of what's important in your life. And again, this kind of goes back to the law of attraction thing, where you can make a list of just 10 or 12 items, let's say, of what you want your career to look like, what you want your home situation to look like, what you want your relationship to look like, whatever it is that's important in your life, you want to make a list for that. And by list, I mean the positive aspects of what that feels like. So that as you read this list, and you only have to read it once, you could read it every day if you want, but I just tell my clients to at least read it, write it and then read it once, so that you get that feeling of what it feels like to have those things, or to have that feeling, right? That's really all it is. Sometimes it doesn't cost anything at all. Really, when it comes to money, especially in businesses, like if you were making a list about how you wanted your business to look, when I get to money and I talk to my clients about it, I just say, you want to write down things like, I want to have enough money to pay my bills, to put some money into the business, to do the things I want to do, and to save some for the future. Because most of us, we really do not need to be millionaires tomorrow, right? We think that would be nice, but do we really want that? I really don't, to be honest. I really just want to help people hear about human design. I'll make some money along the way, yes, but that's not really a driving force for me. Now, it is for some people, and that's fine. But for those pieces of the puzzle, you don't need to put a dollar amount. I actually think the universe doesn't like that. Don't tell Tony Robbins, but I really don't think the universe likes that. I think the universe is much better off with the vague descriptions of what we're hoping to feel, right? Of what we're hoping will be in our relationship, of what we want our relationship with our children to feel like, of what we want our business to look like, and then of what we want our community to look like. Any of those things, you can make a list for those. So that's the way I describe the list. Then you want to kind of respond and listen to your gut. That's the next piece. Watch out for those opportunities. Watch out for those new people that just happen along. Watch out for all the things that are coming to you, because our G center is literally our attraction center. And so as you're wanting those things to come in, the love and direction that you're wanting to come in to attract, now that you've given your list to the universe and said, have at it, universe, this is what I want, then you can just simply wait for those to come and have a good time in the meantime, right? Take inspired steps as they're presented to you, and then go and move forward with all those. And it really gets to be a lot of fun then, because you're not so focused on the stuff you think you have to do to get where you want to be. Even in marketing, even with a business, I tell my clients, just do the things that feel good to you. You don't really have to do anything else. Do the things that feel good. When you're doing the things that feel good to you, that you really like doing, like I really like talking to people. I like being out at, shows and expos and things like that. And I can't do that this year. But then look what's come along. I've gotten a bunch of different, speaking gigs that I can do and let people know about human design that way. So it's always, there's always a way. And the universe provides that way. And so then you get to take your inspired steps, listen to what your gut says and take those inspired steps. And then you want to practice with your gut. And until then, I know a lot of my clients say that they don't trust their gut. They haven't used it for so long and they just don't trust it. Now, I get that. I didn't trust mine at the beginning either. I just knew it had, told me to do some really strange things sometimes in my 20s and 30s. And I lived to regret some of them, but I still had fun in the process. And I always learned a lesson. So if it's having fun and learning a lesson versus maybe I shouldn't have done that, usually the gut wins out with the having fun and learning a lesson. And so what I suggest to my clients is that they use the swaying method. It's real simple. It's one of the kinesiology types of things. You might have heard about it already, but basically it allows me to find out, for example, at a show, if I'm asking people their birth time and they don't know it, then I do the swaying method with them, which is literally just standing up. You can do it by yourself, and you'll sway either forward or backward when you ask yourself a question. So you start out by asking just what's your name? So I'll ask myself, is my name Karen? And then I sway, usually you sway forward, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. Yes is forward and no is backward. And in the Southern Hemisphere, it's the opposite. So, and you can ask yourself the questions. And so ask yourself the questions just to get a baseline in terms of what's your name, where do you live, things like that. And then start asking yourself the other questions. Should I go to a conference? Should I take a course? Should I do this? Should I do that? Different questions, and not all at once, but on different days, just ask yourself either before or after you've meditated, perhaps, ask yourself the questions, and you will always get an answer from your gut. Yes, you will, but you can also allow yourself to see it as do the swaying method to check. And it's okay, the universe doesn't mind that you're checking, because you should get the same answer. Does that make sense? So generators are people who need people, and you probably have figured that out, but we have these, these human design charts that show us that we need people. We need other people, because Ra said that if human design were a game, all roads would lead to the throat for the win, right? That's what would allow us to win. And so whether your throat's defined or not, whether you're single definition or not, we still need other people to bring us energy to the throat. And so, just for example, so my husband and I are both generators, but he's got the, I've got the 1 and he's got the 8. And so together we are a manifesting generator, which is great because it gives us energy to be together and to basically have this united front when we're talking to other people, which people recognize. And so whether you're, we just need other people around us. And so we really thrive around other people, whether it's at home or at work or at school. We need that socialization. And really, this is why I feel, it's hard for me to watch the news sometimes, because I'm realizing that the kids are just missing out on this socialization. It's great that they're hopefully with their parents or with, people in their families who really they want to be with. But for a lot of people, it's not a good time because they're not able to socialize as much as they want to. So, I'm all for Zoom meetings, whether it's a discussion or a work meeting or school meetings or things like that, because people will still get the energy from there and you will still have that interaction. Just like I have on the phone a lot or with a Zoom call, you will still have that energy interaction, because as we know, the quantum physics travels, and it definitely keeps us keeps the energy moving amongst people. The 2 generators will bring the energy to the throat. But the easiest way, I will tell you, if you need a business partner or you're, wanting to be in a relationship or something like that, it's not necessary, but it certainly is a lot easier. It's kind of a shortcut to be with a generator, or with a manifestor or a manifesting generator, because those people will definitely bring you energy. And of course, every generator is unique. So I want to show you a few different charts. Okay, so this happens to be John Lennon's chart, the leader of the Beatles, founder of the Beatles, songwriter, singer, musician. He's only got 2 centers defined. Now he is a generator because he's got the sacral defined and the emotional solar plexus. But with those 2 centers, he created quite an empire with his songs and really the business acumen that he had, along with Paul and Ringo and George, of course. But he's the one who started it. He actually started the Beatles. He named the Beatles. They would go into the studio and create 7 songs in 9 hours that they had written. Now, just think about that. I don't know about you, but creating anything that quickly with that openness was a pretty big deal. But if you look at it, the way I read it is that he was taking in all of that energy. Of course, he had the 12, which allowed him to channel a little bit through his head and ajna, right? And he was able to create, and that's that 59.6, that was the only channel he had. That was his only theme in life, is procreation and creativity. And that's what he did. And that's so cool, I think, because it allowed, and actually Steve Jobs had that same channel in his chart. And he wasn't quite as open, but John had that. And it's what allowed him to, I think, be the creative force that he was, to come up with so many songs like he did, and to really, I mean, somebody said that they were just timeless and classless and ageless, really, their songs. And I'll play one at the end because one of my favorites is "All You Need Is Love," right? And he felt he wrote that song, and he did it for, I don't know if you all remember, but it was a long time ago, but it was the One World event, I think it was. He created it, and he thought that the way he described it in an interview was that it was a little PR for God. And I just thought that was a really cute way to describe it. But many generators have this kind of openness, and it really allows them to learn a lot of lessons from all their different centers, and to be quite creative, and really it allows them to be with a lot of other people in a lot of different ways, right? All that openness allows for a lot of creativity, and John Lennon obviously had it. And then I'll show you a different chart of it, also a generator, but look at how different this is. This is an 8-centered generator. She happens to be a client of mine. She's a doctor. She was trained as a doctor. She's also a mother of 2 kids, and she's now switching careers because she's burned out so many times. So what happened at least I think what's happened, is that she had so much energy in her body, and so much energy that she needed to use up every day, that it was difficult for her to find what she really wanted to do and use the energy to that means. And so as a result, she got sick, and now she's looking into a different career. But if you look at how different these 2 charts are, right? I mean, these are as different as generators could be, and yet they're both generators. They're uniquely suited for what they were doing, and they're able to then, bring to the world what they're here to bring them. So I thought it'd be fun to just show you a few different generators. There are loads of people out there who are generators, and this is a quote from Lady Gaga. You might have heard this at I think it was the Oscars last year, but she said it's not about winning. And this is really true for generators. She is a generator. She's a very individual generator, as you might imagine. She's somebody who's got only individual circuitry. And that's another thing that's important for generators. John Lennon's, for example, happened to be mostly tribal. And this woman's actually is a combination of tribal, collective, tribal and collective. So again, we can be very different as generators. Lady Gaga's circuitry happens to be very individual. That's all she has. And so for her, she said, it's not about winning. It's not about winning. It's about not giving up. And if we kind of take that to heart as generators, if we have a dream, fight for it, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to fall down, do our thing, especially if we're 1-3 profiles or anything with a 1 in our profile, or a 3 in our profile. And there's a lot of us like that, but there's a discipline for passion, and it's not about how many times you get rejected or fall down or beaten up. It's about how often you are brave enough to keep on, how many times you stand up and keep on going. And that really makes a lot of sense to me. And it's the kind of thing that can allow us to keep going, right? That we are here to keep learning, keep having the lessons, keep trying new things. And so a bunch of these people, I mentioned John Lennon already, but Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, Steve Jobs, all billionaires. There's nothing, I will say, there is nothing to stop us from making money as generators. Okay? There's nothing to stop us. Tom Brady, Ronald Reagan, Jordan Spieth, he's a golfer, Jim Carrey, who, famously wrote himself, was it $1 million check or $10 million check, I think, when he was like 20, and then was able to cash it later on because he really did make the money. Edgar Casey, Eli and Peyton Manning, both football players, both had long careers, right? And they were generators. They are generators. And Albert Einstein, who is famously so brilliant. And I love thinking about his chart. So I was wondering, let me just stop the share for a second, Cindy. Cindy, do we have any questions?
We haven't really had any questions, lots of comments.
Okay.
All
right.
Like individuals there.
Okay, good. So I will continue. Any questions? Anything you want to pop in with? Anything that that I said so far that either makes sense or you need more clarification on, or doesn't make sense? So there's a question? Okay.
Yeah, Heidi asked, what's the best way to listen to the sacral?
So, so that's a great question, and we talked about a few ways. So I talked about a few workarounds, actually, is what I talked about. So to listen to it is first to get quiet, right, and to find a way to hear it, and then really, so a few things you can. First of all, if you live with somebody who can ask you the yes or no questions, that's great. But you can also ask yourself the questions, as I mentioned, and listen for the sound or the answer within yourself. It's your inner being talking to you. And, you know, part of it is trusting, right? Part of it is trusting that your inner being is always on your side. There's nothing to stop it, or there's nothing to worry about there. Your inner being is always on your side. What's there for you, right? It's always there to help you and answer the question. So whether it's as simple as, you know, going into the drugstore and wondering if you should get this toothpaste or not, and just kind of holding on to the toothpaste and saying, is this the one for me? Or you know, anything else in the store, or something serious, right? Something more serious. How you know what? So it doesn't answer the hows, right? It answers the yes and no questions. So that's kind of a tricky thing in itself, to make something into a yes or no question. But as you practice, you'll get better at that. So you want to make it into a yes or no. So just for example, I'll give you an example. One time I was asking myself, should I go to a conference? It happened to be it was 2 years ago in 2018. And I was thinking about going to a conference with a friend of mine. She had an extra ticket, and it was down in Miami, so it wasn't all that far. But I was just having this hesitancy about going. So I asked my sacral, should I go to this conference? And should I be working with this person for a business? And I got yes to going to the conference, but no to doing the business. So that was a little confusing, right? Because I wasn't sure then why I'd be going to the conference if we weren't going to be working together, because it was a business conference. So then I go to the conference. I decided to trust it, right? and I did the Swain thing also, just to check it, and I got the same answers. Yes, go to the conference, but no, don't work with that person as a business partner. So I go to the conference, and it was a great conference, met a lot of nice people. But then on the third, the last day of the conference on Sunday, this 24-year-old kid gets up on the stage, and he's talking about having written 3 books, and talks about mind mapping and creating a book. And all of a sudden I find myself doing the exercise, and oh my gosh, there's a book there. And I bought the program that he was selling and got home, and then tried to get out of it because I'm like, what am I doing? I can't write a book. I don't know what I'm doing. And yet, and they wouldn't let me out of the contract, right? So it wasn't a lot. It was like $2,000, but I mean, it was enough. I was worrying how I was going to pay for it. But they wouldn't let me out of the contract. They said, go through these steps and do all this. And then if you really don't like it after 2 months, then we'll give you your money back. So I did all the pieces, and I was like, oh gosh, there really is a book here. And so I did it, and I created the book, and that's Getting to Know You. That's the book that's out. It's a bestseller. People are still buying it 2 years later, which is fantastic, right? But if I hadn't gone to that conference, I wouldn't have heard about this guy. I would have had no idea. And so it was my inner being telling me to go to the conference, yes, and not be in a business with that person. But I was there for another reason. But in my head, I couldn't have known that that guy was going to show up and sell his book program, right? How could I know? So a lot of times we have to trust. We just have to trust. We have to trust that our inner being knows what's best for us. It might not always look like it, but it's what is there for us. It's what's presented to us, and it's what comes up for us. It's what's attracted to us, right? Whatever we're attracting for us is usually good stuff. And so if you can trust that and know that it's coming, right? I mean, I don't make millions from human design. I don't think I ever will, but I love what I'm doing. And so the money comes. And I really believe in my heart, I really do believe it now, that if you're doing what you love, the money will come, right? When you get to the point where it's yours and yours alone, when you've come up with a really unique way of doing it, and Karen says the same thing. Karen Curry says the same thing. It's your business. It's your way of expressing it. It's your way of doing it. So for me, it felt good to do a book. And now with the book, I do speaking things. And hopefully, again, I'll get out to do holistic fairs and expos and things like that, because I love being out meeting people. I've met thousands of people over the years doing many, many fairs. And that's the way I've met a lot of people who want to hear more about human design. And so all of that is just a way of saying that, well, I'll get to it in a minute, but I really feel you have to know your values. You have to know, there's somebody who does a thing, know your value. You're going to know your value by being consistent with your own values. My values are about integrity and trust. Brene Brown has a book, I want to say it's the last one, Daring Greatly, that has a list, a whole list, like 150 values that you can have, but she says to have two. And so after reading that book, I realized what my two were, and my two are integrity and trust. So it's me trusting the universe, trusting that I'm going to be taken care of, trusting that everything is going to come my way as a generator, because, hello, we don't have the voice to make it happen otherwise. It's not going to happen. You kind of have to trust, ladies, because it's only going to come in that way. It's only going to happen if you're trusting. So, and I'm not saying it has to be one of your values, but part of it, a piece of it, has to be the trust, right? So have the trust, and then for me, it's the integrity, because for me, it's just a big deal for me. But then, of course, it's been the lessons as well. This is the lessons that I've been taught, because as far as integrity goes, I've been betrayed by friends, family, bosses, you name it, and somebody's betrayed me, and in big ways, and like mostly not forgivable ways, or at least most people would not forgive them, and yet they were betrayals that I had to get through, pick myself up again and keep going, because what choice do we have, right? And then as far as the trust, I have to trust that things are going to happen. Things are going to come my way. Things are going to fill my lists, right? They're going to allow me to have those feelings that I've created from my lists. So the listening, just practicing with, back to your question is standing in front of the refrigerator and saying, what do I want for lunch? Do I want this or do I want this? And just practicing doing that. Literally saying those guttural sounds, right? They sound pretty guttural, but they are what we respond to. It's what our sacral responds to. And It's I like to say it's like two little kids, when they're having a fight over a truck, right? When they're 4 and 5 years old. It's mine. Back and forth. And they'll be fighting over that for hours, right? But they'll always be using those little generator sounds, and it's so cute, and we love it. But guess what, ladies? They work for you too. They are definitely adult sounds that can be used, and I find myself, using it in conversation. When things happen, it's just a natural generator sound. It just is. And that's another thing I wanted to mention, is that because a lot of us have either open throats or defined throats that don't have a lot of energy behind them, we'll probably find ourselves sometimes making sounds that other people find annoying or upsetting sometimes. Mine is sighing. I can't tell you how many times people are like, what's wrong with you, Karen? Why are you sighing? And it's just my way of showing frustration, right? Because that's what generators do. We show frustration. And so whatever your way of showing that frustration is usually what's annoying, usually to your significant other or somebody in your family, right? So it's just good to notice. because the more we notice these things, then the less they show up. I'm happy to report that I don't blurt out as many things as I used to, knowing that I've, now that I know I've been a generator for so long, I just don't blurt out things like I used to. I think it's just awareness. I think, I don't think my mind's really taken over that much. I just think it's awareness. And not as many shocking things come out of my mouth. And thank goodness I don't have the 51, but my husband does. So it'll be shocking once in a while.
And shocking things must come out of his mouth.
They do. They do.
So Elena says, or wait, no. Anna asks if you do sacral sessions. That's something
I do. I always do with my generator clients. Yeah, definitely.
And followed up with a question, because you were mentioning your relationship is between two generators. Are relationships between generators and projectors difficult or easy? I can say both. I have a relationship with my husband.
So that's kind of a loaded question, but listen, it always depends on the person, right? I mean, I have some lovely projectors in my life, and then I have a brother and a sister, and my parents were all projectors. And so I have this kind of funny relationship with projectors. I would say generally, a generator and projector are quite good together. It would really be nice, of course, because neither of them have the throat energy on their own. It would really be nice if somehow that comes together so that their what we call electromagnetics are coming together in a way that allows them to become a manifesting generator. That would really be good. So without, basically there are ways to put the composite charts together, and you'd be able to figure that out. I run charts for my clients all the time who are single and who are looking to see what kinds of people are good for them, or at least have a good chance of working out well for them, right? And that's a lot of fun to take a look at, because there are definitely electromagnetics in the chart that come together. So where one person has one gate and the other person has the other gate of the same channel, and they come together, and that makes an electromagnetic. And the more electromagnetics you have in a chart or between two charts, the better it is. And the juicier the relationship is, for sure. And so there can be, a very, let's say, either well-defined or a lot of centers in one, either a generator or a projector, and then they'll come together and there's a lot of nice matchups. And so or hookups, sometimes people call them, right? So those electromagnetics are what make a relationship juicy. And so the more you have of those, the better for any two people coming together, but especially for generators and projectors. So I would say, yes, it could be a lovely relationship, but just know that the generator will probably be doing more of the housework, more of the childcare, more of the stuff in the house. As long as you're going in with those kinds of realizations, then any relationship is fine.
I have to say that Anna gave me a giggle, because as you were going there, she goes, "Oh my God, that should be an app." So that I'm sitting there picturing people asking, "Oh, can I have your birthday?" Filling it in. Oh, swipe left.
Yeah.
Swipe right.
Yeah, well, there is and I'm not sure, sometimes they go offline and online, but what I have is called humandesignApp.com, and I think it's like $3.99 or something, and it does actually give you that capability. So,
but you can't swipe left, can you?
No, you can't. Well, I'm thinking about doing that one, Cindy. But this
swipe
one
left.
you can see it, but it's a nice little app that allows you to take a look, and it does allow for composite charts, so you could actually see pretty quickly and then swipe left if you want. So that's cool. Oh, that's nice. So Jane's saying that her dad's a projector and her mom's a generator, and they've been together for 54 years. Yeah, and my parents were both projectors, and they were married for a long time. So there's nothing. There's literally nothing, I should say that as a caveat. There's nothing to stop any two people from being together, as long as they know about each other, right? As long as they know their human design, as long as they're aware of what's really going on with each of their charts and how they can really be the most they can be in a relationship, because isn't that what relationships are about, right? It's making or helping the other person to be the best they can be. If you feel better with that person, that's a great thing. But the human design chart can kind of serve the same purpose in the meantime, right? So let me go back and and then Cindy, just let me know if there are more questions. But I thought this was interesting to look at Jane Fonda. Now she's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 channel centers defined, and that root center is open. Sorry, it got chopped off. But I just heard an interview with her the other day. She's 82 years old now. She's got a new book. She's as you probably know, she's been an actress, an activist, environmentalist. She got arrested 3 times in DC just a few weeks ago she said, literally, as she said in the interview, with a bunch of other old ladies. So I think this is just a preview, if you will, of what's to come. I think a lot of us old ladies are going to be out there. And whether we consider ourselves old or not, we're wise. We might be, either the crones or the what do they call them? There's other words for wise old ladies, right? But when we get to this wisdom that we all know is coming in, and if you're here learning about human design, then you've definitely got an advantage or at least a leaning toward finding out more, right? Finding out more about yourself, finding out more about other people. She always wanted to be, this was interesting that I literally just heard, that she wanted to be a full-time activist in her 40s. That's what the way she was leaning. But a very good friend of hers who was a lawyer in DC told her that to do what she does best, that she would really, if she followed her path, which was to be an actress because she was such a great actress, that she would, and I'm just quoting Lee Strasberg, her coach, is because she was a great actress, to do what she was really here to do, right? And not get into the activism. Now she's still back in activism. She's still not retired from acting, but she's doing the activism more. So she gets to do both, but really do what feels the best for you. So as a result of that, because she went back to acting, she started her own production company. Now, I don't know, she's a generator who started her own production company, but I found this really interesting, that a lot of women actresses who were like in the 30s and 40s and 50s, they could not, because as we know as women, they could not start their own production companies. They literally couldn't get a bank loan. They couldn't sign anything. They couldn't get a credit card, right? Then not they existed, but they wouldn't be able to get any money. And so they all had to co-sign with their husbands. And so people like Doris Day, Lucille Ball, Mary Tyler Moore, they all happened to be manifestors who had that inkling, right, to start their own production company, but they did it with their husbands, who just happened to be generators. So it was just, kind of interesting the way that happened, but thankfully Jane Fonda, because she didn't start until the 80s, was able to start her own production company. But there's nothing to stop us. Literally, we will have that energy of the sacral forever. It's not going anywhere. You are literally going to trample into your grave or whatever you're going to. You will just walk right in. There's nothing to stop you. If you're doing what you love, you're just going to go out like a light bulb. And that sacral is always there to take care of you, to nourish you, to feed your passion. That's what I feel like it is, that it's there to feed your passion. It's there to say, okay, what do you want to do, Karen? Oh, wow, let's do this today. And then I've got the energy to do it, right? And I always have the energy to do what I want to do. The older I get, the more I see that, right? We went on a vacation we just drove to Asheville, very quiet, very isolated, practically didn't see a soul. But at least we got away from the humidity of Florida for a little bit. And I was able to do everything I wanted to do. And then when it got to be time to come home, guess what? I was like, I'm a little tired now. And so it was like my energy was there for everything I wanted to do. And it's here for today, right? No matter how I was feeling. I mean, I could have been, had a cold or had a whatever, allergies or anything like that that can happen this time of the year. And here I am. right? Here I am with energy, with my boots on, it's showtime, right? It's showtime for generators. It's, whoa. Um, and on that, we had a firecracker or something outside. So it's generators can have that energy, and when we're invited to have it, or and it's not the same as projectors, because we can react to anything. We literally can react to anything. And that's the other thing with the sacral, is that we can respond to anything. So whether it's the refrigerator, or it's in the store, or it's to somebody in person, or it's to a phone call or a Zoom call, or an email you get, we literally can respond to anything. We actually have too many choices. We have so many choices that it's really, we really have to figure out what we want. So and the other thing with in fact, let's get into that. How do we have more vitality even? These are just ideas for more vitality if you're looking for that. So generators have to use up, as I said, their motor energy every single day so that they can sleep. Now, sleeping, I put it in 3 categories. It's eating, sleeping, and exercising. Sleeping is the most important thing. If you eat well for your body and you exercise for your body, you will then be able to sleep. So the most important one is sleeping. If you don't do the other 2 right, you're not going to be able to sleep. And if you can't sleep, then your generator body is not going to have the energy for the next day. Does that make sense? They really all go together. And I'll just say that you know what you need to do for your body to eat well at this point, and you know what you need to do to exercise well. You may not like to do it. You may not be consistent with it. You may not even want that to be what you're supposed to be doing, but you know what it is, right? I know that you know. And so when you do those things in accordance with what feels good, especially after 50 years old, it's like 30s and 40s, we kind of get away with a lot, but after 50, you want to be eating and exercising the way you want to, the way that's good for your body, so that you can then enjoy the sleep, get a good 8-9 hours of sleep every night, whatever it is, and then continue on. And most people do need 8 hours, so try not to skimp on that. The thing to have more vitality, you got to know that the authority lives in the body, not in the head or ajna, right? Whether you're sacral or emotional or splenic, those would be the only 3 that generators can be, right? No matter what you are, that authority lives in the body. And somebody said this on one of the classes the other day, but that authority is in the body. It's not in your head or ajna. And so you want to just drop into the body, into the present moment, and that will always bring you more vitality. It'll also bring you more clarity about what you need to do. And that's, again, where you can get your sacral answers if you're asking a question. If you want to relieve too much energy in the body, I have a Reiki master who gave me this a long time ago, but she said basically you can do a sweep of the energy so that you can sleep better, right? So say, like a John Lennon who's only got 2 centers defined, he's got all this other energy coming in during the day. He needs to clear his energy every night, probably, just to be able to sleep well. And so this is a nice thing to be able to do to sleep well. Just literally take your hands, sweep them down your body as far as they'll go, whether you're sitting or standing or laying down, and just say something to yourself like, please clear all the energy that I might have taken in during the day so that I can sleep soundly, or so that I can go to my next client meeting, or so that I can, have a clear conscience as I have this discussion with my significant other, anything like that, because you know that if you're taking in that energy, you need to get rid of it. And that Reiki move is just a real simple self-Reiki thing that you can do that people love, and it works, and I do it all the time. Now, if you get triggered, because a lot of us get triggered, especially these days, there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's all, hopefully, for a reason. Hopefully you realize it's for the greater good. We're going through this period of tumult, drama, of a little bit of darkness to get to the other side. Nobody, we never get anywhere without struggle. And so this is a little bit of struggle that we're needing to get through. And hopefully you're able to take it in that way. But when you do get triggered, whether it's from the TV or social media or something that's going on in your own home, take a deep breath, feel where the trigger is actually happening in your body, because we all have different places, right? Usually mine's in my neck or back here in my shoulders. Some people get it in the pit of their tummy. Some people feel it in their, in the heart area. Some people get a headache. Wherever it is, take a breath, and then take another breath so that you can respond in a way that's appropriate, right? And take as many breaths as you need to, because sometimes those triggers don't go away very easily. But if you're getting those triggers, just take a deep breath and try to get rid of them. And then a recent one I learned, which I just wanted to share with you guys, is about and you might have heard of this, that a lot of us are think of ourselves, right, as either right-brained or left-brained, right? The left brain being the more creative, the right brain being the more logical. And in human design, it's so cool that you can actually see it. I mean, people love when I tell them exactly how they're thinking, right? That's a cool part of the session. But when you're logical and supposedly right-brained versus the left-brain creativity, it's really nice to be able to bring them together, right? We all are at a point now where, and especially with the 6124 in right now, all of us have that holistic channel in our heads. And so it's great to be able to bring them together. And it's kind of it's nice to do. It's nice to be able to do, especially when I'm writing or talking with people or whatever. And so this is just a little move that one of my therapists told me about. She's a massage therapist, and she does a lot of craniosacral work. So you know how you do tapping with the two fingers, and you do it on the different places like that. So this is a different kind of tapping. Take your two fingers, put them on the bridge of your nose, and this is a way to bridge the right and left brain, if that's what you're wanting to do. So you take two fingers, start tapping there, and then just go all the way over your head and down to the nape of your neck. And you can do that once or twice or a few times if you want, but it's just a little tapping just to let the brain know that you're ready to do something that's going to involve both the right and the left hemispheres. And I thought that was really cool. And that seemed to work for me. So I hope that works for you too. So next I wanted to talk about finding your passion as a generator, because a lot of us are in change, right? As you answered in the poll, a lot of us are changing either relationships or jobs, changing careers, transitioning into something new, getting laid off, and trying to find out what we're doing next, right? These are all different challenges that we're having this year. And for a lot of people, it's upsetting. And this is where the trust comes in again, right? That if you can trust that this is a time for you to be you, for you to really find out what you're here for, because I'll make a bet that there's probably nobody who got laid off from the dream job that they always wanted. There's always a reason that you're moving on to the next thing, right? And so the first piece of this in finding your passion is to take baby steps. Just, as I said, make those lists, describe what it is you really want to do, and then take inspired actions as baby steps, because there's nothing that you have to do probably immediately. There's nothing that you have to do in the whole shebang right away. You can take your time doing it, and you can take those inspired steps and do them just little steps at a time. I would just gently say that if you're in a job that you've been in for more than 10 years, it's time to change it up. As a generator, it just doesn't work to stay in something for more than 10 years. I can attest to that. I know that. I've been in corporate America for a long time, and I changed quite a few jobs, and I never understood why I did that. But it's because you get to be an expert at it, and it gets to be boring. And generators hate to be bored. We need to be doing something new. We need to be finding something new to use our wonderful talents for. And so change it up, because if you're in a job too long and you don't like it, guess what? You're taking somebody else's seat. It's not yours to take anymore. You've done it for as long as you need to do it, and you need to move on. Also know that our expectations are a form of judgment, our own expectations, right? We like to point fingers at people and say, you shouldn't be judging me, you shouldn't be judging me, but guess who does it the most, right? We tend to be the ones who are having expectations of ourselves, and that's a form of judgment. So I would gently say, release those expectations and let yourself really live in the moment, really be happy in the moment, and really feel yourself into each next moment so that you're doing what you really want to do. It sounds selfish. It always sounds selfish. And none of us are raised to be selfish, right? But if we're not doing what we're happy doing, we're not serving the world. We're not doing what we're really here to do. If you're not finding out what it is you really want to do, then it's time. It's time to find out. And it's time to find out your why. Because the why, as Simon Sinek says, is something that is there with you all the time. It doesn't change. How you live, it changes. But your why doesn't change. I mean, I've always been here to help people, to do things with people, to find ways to be with people. And that's everything I've always ever done is marketing and sales and training and helping people know themselves better, helping them to feel better, helping them to get products that help them feel better. And I can tell you that the products that I sold before don't hold a candle to human design. And so I'm really happy I found the human design piece, because this really lights me up. I mean, I was really happy about everything I was selling before. I always thought it was the greatest thing. And as a result, I was able to sell it even as a generator, which was kind of funny because, you know, I mean, if I were to tell my clients, although some of them are great salespeople, most of them are not generators, right? And so generators really can do anything they put their mind to. And but having the ability to tell people about human design is what really lights me up. And so you want to find what really lights you up, whether it's human design or something else, or a combination. Or what's really cool is that we're all so unique, is that there's no client who comes to me that doesn't have this really panoply of experiences, right? And things they love to do that really meld together into some new business that they can then explain to people and tell them what they're about. It's really a lovely thing to see how many people can find new ways of doing things and really enjoy that and really have a new lease on life, because once you're doing what you really love, you just have so much more energy to do it. And when we're saying yes to our own mission, that's where our passion in life comes, our true nature, and we're experiencing joy. And I like to look at the triangle you might have seen from Abraham Hicks, which talks about freedom, growth, and joy. So really we have the growth first, which leads to freedom, and then that creates the joy. And that's, you know, something I've lived with for a long time. And when I started in 2000, there was no freedom in my life. There was no freedom at all. I was doing everything I thought I should be doing. You know, I was in a corporate job in New York. I was commuting back and forth. I was trying to have a child. I was taking care of the family, taking care of my parents, his parents. You know, there was no me in there. It was all shoulds. It was all shoulds. There was no freedom. So I heard about Abraham Hicks. I was like, the law of attraction, how can I possibly make that work? But as Karen said this morning, when we were servants, you know, when we were doing centuries ago, when we were doing all the things we had to do because we worked for the king or the whoever, there was no choice either. But now we have the choices. And so we get to say yes to our joy, but it takes a while to get there, right? So first you have to do the growth, then get to the freedom, and then you'll find your joy. And I heard something that really made me happy the other day. When you think about it, and because we're so connected in our bodies, right? Our circulatory system, when we're happy and we're joyful, and they're not really the same, but let's just say joyful. When we're joyful, that's actually in our blood. And our blood system moves around our body and brings bliss to our entire body. And then guess what? That really helps every single system, because every single system depends on our blood. And I've always been I always give blood. I've always given blood since I was in college. So I loved hearing that, because I have this, they're t-shirts that say, be the wave of change. That circulatory system, that blood system, is bringing the joy to our entire bodies every single day when we're doing what we're here to do. And as you know, when we're doing what we're here to do, we just feel a lot better. So, so this is just, how are we doing on questions, Cindy? Any questions come up as I take a little sip?
No, but I'm going to start giving you the gentle ding soon.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll just show this and you guys can go back and see it. But this is just basically the quick trusting, letting go of your fears so that you get to self-awareness. You want to follow your strategy, get to clarity and vision, take your action steps, and then practice and make adjustments with understanding and ease and grace. Those are my words to live by. This is a little bit about, again, you can go back and look at this if you want. It's your illusion. Which do you choose? This is just kind of my take on quantum physics for generators. We get to be who we want to be. If you believe you are, then you are. And I just wanted to end with, because suddenly as generators, it's time to start something new and trust in the magic of beginnings. And that's from Eckhart Tolle. So that's
a nice quote.
That's it. Oh, you know what? Sorry, one more. Just because
while you're getting the slide up,
yeah.
Where did you hear about the blood thing? That was so moving. This is from Anna.
I'm sorry, about the what?
When you were talking about the blood circulating and you have joy, it makes the blood cells.
It's somebody I started following this summer called Shri and Kira. And so literally their website is SRI and AND, Kira, Kira. And they're a couple who are really, they probably were hippies in the 60s kind of thing, but they're great to listen to and they're wonderful together. And they talk about all kinds of stuff like that. And it's just very uplifting, and it's been very reassuring during this period. So one thing I thought the generators might like is learn the rules like a pro so you can break them apart like an artist. That's from Pablo Picasso. Because we're here to make a difference. We're here to really live our values and to know our value and to get into the world and do what we're here to do. So whether you're an activist or a writer or a reader or just supporting other people who are doing that, just do what's right for you and you'll be happy. So that's my take on it. Any questions? Any other questions? No?
Oh, there was a quick, what was the slide before Eckhart?
The one before Eckhart Tolle.
Tolle's.
So that was about really kind of my take on we get to choose through quantum physics what we want to do, right? We're all vibrations, and hopefully our vibrations are rising during this period, and so we get to choose what we want to do. Whatever you think you are, you are. Thank you so much for allowing me here, and it was fun, and just go forth and prosper, because as generators we're supposed to. It's a fun time, and there's really a lot for us to do on the planet. Have a good time. Thanks so much for being here.